Last month, Indiana authors were honored during the second annual Eugene and Marilyn Glick Indiana Authors Award event here at Central Library. The winner of the Regional Author Award was Ray Boomhower, whose 13 books in the library's collection include examinations of such Hoosier legends as Gus Grissom, Ernie Pyle, Lew Wallace, May Wright Sewell, and Juliet Strauss. Ray has joined us to reflect on his award and talk about his latest works. Ray, welcome to the program, and first of all, congratulations on your Indiana Author Award, the Regional Author winner. And this is a program of the Indianapolis-Marion County Public Library Foundation. What did this award mean to you?
It meant a lot to me. It's a great validation of my entire career as a writer involved in looking at Indiana legends of the past. But also it's important because it came from a library. And libraries have been an important part of my life from my early days growing up in Mishawaka, Indiana. My late mother loved to tell the story of taking my two brothers and I, putting us in a little red wagon and trundling off down the street to the Mishawaka Public Library to get our first library cards and to really begin my career in books. And so I was really a denizen of the library, loved going down to the children's area, and also loved the school library I had at Mary Phillips Elementary School, where I first really got involved in history and biography. In the collection at the school, there was this series of youth biographies put out by Bob's Merrill Company of Indianapolis. They were Childhood of a Famous American series, and I love these things. They had these old woodcut drawings in them, and it told about the childhood of such famous Americans as Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig. I was a baseball fan, so I loved those books, and Andrew Jackson, and it really got me involved in writing and involved in telling the person's life.
And that's been your genre of choice ever since, historical writing, especially about Hoosiers. Now, the entire day, the day of the Indiana Authors Award event, was filled with activities for aspiring writers, which also gave them an opportunity to meet established writers like yourself. What do you think that day meant in terms of having Indiana literature being fully celebrated on that occasion?
I think it was an eye-opening event for a lot of people, just looking out at the room and seeing it filled with writers from Indiana. Of course, people know about the golden age of Indiana literature, you know, great names like James Whitcomb Riley, George Ade, Booth Tarkington, but they forget that Indiana's literary tradition has continued since that time, and it's very strong these days. And just listening to the National Award winner, Scott Russell Sanders, and his entire body of work, it's an impressive assemblage of Indiana writers, and having them in one place is just it's a great thing to see.
Well, when you and I last met on camera years ago, you had written the book Gus Grissom, The Last Astronaut, about Hoosier Gus Grissom, one of the original Mercury astronauts. But since then, you've written 7 books, the latest being about a famous Indiana World War II fighter pilot. What about that?
Well, you know, you come into these subjects sometimes out of left field, and I was in between projects at the time. I was going through old back issues of Trace's magazine, which I edit for the Indiana Historical Society, and I came across a special edition we did back in 1991 commemorating the 50th anniversary of World War II and Indiana's role in it. And I stared at the cover, and it was this grinning pilot stepping out of his Hellcat fighter plane, and it was a young man named Alex Verschuur. And I thought, well, his was a great story to tell. Because it covered, you know, a lot of combat operations in the Pacific, which has always been a big interest of mine as well. So I was able to contact him, get his cooperation. He's still alive, living in retirement out in the San Francisco Bay Area. So I went out there, spent a couple of days with him, and was able to tell his life story from growing up in the Indiana Harbor section of East Chicago to his combat days in World War II.
Interesting, and that book is available in the library's collection, as are your other 12. Any future ideas? Who else is on your radar screen from Indiana that you may be writing about in the near future?
I've always had in the back of my mind wanting to do a biography of another Indiana writer and ex-reporter like I am, named John Bartlow Martin. who was was raised in Indianapolis, worked for the old Indianapolis Times newspaper, and became famous as one of the best freelancers in the United States at a time when the big slick magazines Life and Look were in their heyday. He also played a big role in a variety of Democratic presidential campaigns, from Adlai Stevenson's 2 campaigns in the 50s, working with John F. Kennedy, later also in Robert F. Kennedy's campaign, particularly here in Indiana when he ran in the Democratic primary in 1968. So he had quite an interesting life. He was also an ambassador to the Dominican Republic in John Kennedy's administration. So his paper is at the Library of Congress, and I've done an article for Traces about him, but I'd like to further develop that into a full-scale biography.
Okay, so that could be coming within the next, what, couple of years?
It'd take a couple of years,
okay,
yes.
Okay. What do you look for in particular when deciding a potential subject?
I always follow the dictates of David McCullough, who I've heard talk a number of times, and he loves to tell the story about trying to do a biography of Pablo Picasso, and learning very early on in the process that he couldn't stand Pablo Picasso. And he came up with the idea, look, you got to pick a subject that you're going to enjoy spending time with. So I look for people that I admire, that I have some kind of connection with. And particularly in John Bartlett Martin's case, I'm an ex-reporter, as he was a writer. He also wrote about Indiana history, like I do. So it seems like a very good connection there.
Okay. Well, Ray Boomhower, thank you again for joining us, and congratulations on being the regional author winner of the Indiana Authors Award, the Eugene and Marilyn Glick Indiana Authors Award, a program of the IMCPL Foundation. And look for all of Ray's books in the library's catalog at imcpl.org.